Jennifer, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Justin.
Yeah, I've been waiting for this conversation for a long time. I knew it was going to happen, but I also knew it was going to happen at the right time.
Yeah.
And I feel like we are in a place, and we were talking before I hit record. I feel like we're in a place where I think some things are going to be said today that can really change the mindset of a lot of people, have people look at life a little bit differently. You are, for lack of a better term, an incredibly impressive individual. And you continue to impress and continue to overcome and continue to help other people do the same thing. And I think that's kind of the beauty of what you've been able to do. But why don't we start with, who is Jennifer Love today? And then we're going to unpack how you got there.
I am a blessed woman. Who am I today? I am a woman with an open heart and an open mind who is moving through her own limitations, and I continue to blow my own damn mind. And so I meet myself at the edges of my own capacity, and I dance with divine, and I love to play in the garden, and I love chocolate and tea. And my goal and my channel for wealth at this stage of my life is play, it's to keep my heart open to play, to cherish those in my life. Like, who am I? I am love.
I love that. I love that. And I love the fact that you said that you said it so much more beautiful than I'm about to, but you're essentially, your definition of life is to play and to have fun. And maybe that was wealth. Your definition of wealth now is to have fun. And I think that's beautiful, because I think when we hear the word wealth, people immediately go money, things, cars, trips, all those things. And honestly, the money thing has been great in your life, right? You've built massive businesses time and time again. And I think that's an incredible part. And I'd love to talk about that a little bit before we get into your growth beyond that. But tell us a little bit about your journey in entrepreneurship, how you found yourself in it, and then obviously the massive success that you've been able to build for yourself in that realm as well.
Yeah, you got it. Well, it all began when I was my little 3-year-old self. Sassy and unencumbered and playful, and really like I was just remembering this a couple weeks ago, actually, Justin. I had this memory of myself sitting down at this little piano, and I was just like playing my heart out, like, and not for just myself, not for just my home, not just for my town. I was literally playing for the universe. And I think that's, thinking back to that little 3-year-old, that's where I play, is in the realm with the universe, right? Like, my limits, God, if we can get back to that 3-year-old, right? And so, insert a moment of trauma then into my life at 3, where I hear dad, and mom in their bedroom fighting, and dad's punching holes in the walls, and he's storming down the hallway past me out the front door. And I see mom sitting on the bed crying, and I go to her, and there next to her are the cut up credit cards. And she looks down at the little 3-year-old me and says, your dad's leaving, he's not coming back, and we don't have any money. And that was the day we went. My father was an entrepreneur, a successful one. And that was the day that we went, from being wealthy, whatever, that meant then, rich, right? And living in poverty for a while. And that's where really my money story began. The story of, I'm not livable enough for dad to stay. I'm not good enough for him to pay child support. And how that began to translate and manifest itself in me with that kind of a story was, well, I'm going to prove my worthiness. We might know a little bit about that around these parts. Like, as entrepreneurs, I see it all the time, right? This is not an uncommon story. And so I began to achieve and do. And it was like the more that I thought that I could do and prove through achievement, whether that was money in the bank or press recognition or, real estate assets or business success or whatever it was, that somehow then I was going to feel lovable enough. I was going to feel good enough. The problem was I never got there. In all of that. That was not the path. In fact, I felt emptied out and landed myself in what I now call emotional poverty. So yeah, I built, Nibmore Chocolate, my chocolate company. Yeah, I built and helped build a lot of companies for my companies and other entrepreneurs, and did an amazing job of it. From the outside, you'd be like, yes, the measure of success, Jennifer Love has met it. She did it, right? And cool, yeah. But the question that I had to come to, and the question that I want to ask all that are here with us is that really success? Is burnout really success? Is emotional poverty really success? And I got to the answer of no. And so it was really a return that I began to do for myself of like, okay, I want to do this different because I have normalized suffering, and I'm no longer willing to do that because I feel like I'm in a prison of work, a prison of what, I'm supposed to be doing. And I'm like, no, I want liberty. I want freedom of my soul. And so I began a journey of that. I began the journey of what I now call living wealthy. And that's the life that I've stepped into for many years now. That's the life that I live. And that's why I built now the Living Wealthy Institute to help others do the same.
I love it. And so much that of what you said is so true. I think sometimes we look at our goals as the antidote for our symptoms, right? We think once we get them, we're going to be cured of the sadness, the pain, the whatever. And the reality is it's just not the case. And time again, I've had these interviews that I've done, and even in my own life, we strive for something, we attain it, and then immediately we feel more empty than we did the day before that we attained it. And it happens over and over and over again. And a lot of times we then create the same patterns for the people beyond us, right? Our friends, our family, our kids, or whatever. And I love the fact that you were able to kind of break that cycle for yourself. And I know it's not an easy process whatsoever, right? A lot of times you just go chase the next thing, right? You don't have that eye-opening experience of like, wait, this isn't the thing. So what was that process like for you to begin the healing? Because that's not an overnight thing. That's not oh, okay, I'm going to fix it and now it's fixed. What was that process like for you?
Yeah, it was a bit of the, you may have heard the dark night of the soul. Mm-hmm. And it's been a journey of really going in and doing the self-examination, of really meeting myself in all of those areas that I was afraid to look at, because what was running my money show, right? My money story, what was driving me towards success really ultimately was fear, was anger, was shame. And those are the three primary low vibration emotions that we see as scientists when it comes to people's relationship with money. Now, couple that with, well, gosh, like what we also know through science is, and research, is that 90% of all financial decisions are made based on our emotions. So we think mentally, we're thinking, oh, I just need this formula. Oh, I just need this like 12 steps to get rich quick, thing, and I'll be there. And I don't want to discount the importance of strategy, because strategy is important. But what becomes more important, what I had to go back and do, was re-regulate myself and go back and reparent myself in all of the ways that I hadn't received, that I was fractured. right? Reclaim that little 3-year-old who was playing for the universe. I had to go reclaim her. I needed to do some inner examination, some inner healing. I also needed to step into some real forgiveness work. Forgiveness of myself for what I had put myself through. I mean, had been bulimic for 10 years, all through my 20s, right? Talk about, I now look at that, I'm like, well, that was really self-love expressed through self-harm.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's such a crazy way to look at that. Like, I've never heard that before.
Yeah, it absolutely was. And I come back now and I can see, wow, well, I'm really a purge mistress. Like, I have an incredible ability to purge shit out. Was I doing that on an unconscious level in my 20s? Yes. But really, I was loving myself, and it was a form of loving other, even just it was expressed through harm. And so coming back and healing those parts and looking at, well, wait a minute, what am I avoiding here? What am I numbing out? What am I disassociating from that actually really needs my attention? So going back into deep dive in all the places that, gosh, not just myself, but so many of us want to avoid.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, it is absolutely the path to freedom, to our liberty, to our joy, because on the other side of that when we allow ourselves to go into those places, guess what happens? When we actually really do that clearing, guess what happens?
You
Our
feel
heart,
free, right?
our
Yeah.
heart, our heart opens. And so Justin, my question to you now is like, when in what position are we able to receive? Is it like this when we're closed? Can we receive like that?
No, we
No,
have to be open.
we have to be open. If we really want to manifest the life that we desire, if we really want, and I'll tell you, most people don't even really know what that is. They think they have an idea of what it is, but what's really running those desires is fear, right? So underneath that, what do you really, really, really want? From a place where your heart's open, where fear's not running the show, where anger is not running the show, where shame is not running the show. What do you want from that place? When your heart's open, guess what? That's when you manifest the life of your dreams.
I love that. You know,
And that's when the strategy then becomes really useful.
Yeah, and that's what I was about to say, right? Like, I love what you're saying, right? And obviously I've talked with people time and time again, and I hear all of these things. Like, they go, once I get there, I can focus on the other stuff. I can focus on the inner work once I get the outer stuff, right?
Yeah.
And it's almost like a I'm pushing it off to the side type of thing. How do you make somebody even realize that what they feel is the antidote is not the case before they even get there? I think, you know, I look at most people and they get there and then they have the realization. Is there a way to realize it before they get there?
Yeah, that is such a really great point. And it is something that we at the Institute are really actively researching and working on right now. What we find, like, and we call it like people who go all in versus those who don't, going all in into their own human mastery, into their own freedom, right? And it's like, we find that sometimes people come in, they're like so ready. Readiness is a big part. They're so ready. Like, yes, I'm all in, I'll do it all. Where, you know, those who've got like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. At the end of the day, what I'm finding is a simple question like, where in my life am I making myself not matter, and why? And just starting to ask yourself some simple like questions can start to get you primed to go, oh, wait a minute here. There's something else that's running my show. There's something else that's actually driving my wheel. I'm not actually driving my life. I'm being controlled by it. And when you get to that place, for most people, when that really lands for them, they're like, oh, wait a minute. No, I do matter. I do matter in all of the ways that I'm making myself not matter, whether that's through a lack of boundaries in their life, through, how they're in relationship with money, um, how they're allowing themselves to enjoy. My God, so many entrepreneurs they're not even celebrating, Justin. We get to a milestone, we're like, okay, on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And you know what that is? That's dishonoring. That's dishonoring of yourself. That's dishonoring of your team. That's dishonoring of the process. Most people aren't literally taking the appropriate time to sit and really like appropriately plan. And I don't
Mm.
mean just planning from like business planning. And I did business planning for 10 years. So I can tell you all day and we could talk all day about just business planning. I mean, planning of your heart, planning of your soul, planning of your real desires, sitting and listening. Because you know what happens in the deep listening, Justin? That's when we really receive the
Mm.
truth of who we are.
I love it.
It's
I
in that
love it.
place. Yeah.
It's funny, like, the on to the next thought process. When Elon Musk became the richest man in the world, and I don't think he is anymore, actually, so he might have been surpassed again, but he became the richest man in the world, and he tweeted, apparently I'm the richest man in the world. Back to work. And there was no, I mean, is that a goal? Was that his goal? I don't know, but there should be a celebration process there. But then that was celebrated online. It's like this
Yeah.
wonderful, hilarious thing. But this is exactly what you're talking about, right? Like there's no honoring yourself in your victories and understanding who you are truly. Like how common is this? Because I know you work with so many people, many of them at a very high level in life. Like how common is this?
It is so common. We actually track this. More than 90% of entrepreneurs.
Wow.
Yeah, at least the ones that we've been in relationship with, which has been thousands. And so more than 90% of entrepreneurs are not taking the time to pause, to celebrate, to honor themselves. Why? Because they're not making themselves matter.
Right. Yeah, we live in like this grind and hustle culture
Yeah.
where people don't honor themselves. They don't realize that, we work to live, we don't live to work.
Yeah.
And I see it all the time. Like I
Yeah.
see it with friends of mine, and I've been able to become friends with some of the coolest people in the world. And I see it. And like when I give them love in some way, shape, or form, you can tell they're not receiving it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
And
if
so let me ask another way. When someone doesn't acknowledge you for all of the effort that you've put into something and how you've shown up for them and like all the ways that you really help to make something a success and you are not acknowledged for that, how do you feel?
yeah, you feel terrible.
You feel pissed off, right? You're
Yeah.
like you're like and so if they just move on and continue to expect stuff from you, what's happening? You're like getting resentful, you're getting
Mm-hmm.
angry, and you're like, I'm fuck this shit, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, that's what we're doing to ourselves.
Wow. Wow. This is why you do what you do. What a beautiful way to put it. It's so true. I mean, and isn't that weird that we don't look at it that way? Like how people don't even realize that it's happening. And like you said, 90% of entrepreneurs are doing this to themselves, and it's destroying them.
It's destroying them. Absolutely. It's robbing them of their ability to experience joy, to be open and feel love, to flourish. I mean, okay, so we've got the millions in the bank and we've got the success record. But if in the journey we've lost our spouse, our children won't talk to us, our health is on decline, like, was it worth it?
Yeah.
Like, and by the way, I'm here to say, because I'm doing it now, like I've had to go back and relearn how to build from a very different place inside myself. And it's absolutely possible. And here's what I also can report in this. Not only is it possible, it's so much more easeful, it's so much faster. Good Lord, I wish I would have known this back in my 20s.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's life-changing stuff. And I had the pleasure of working with you and your team, and we created a season of a podcast where you got to share your journey and also sit down with very successful women and men and share their journey and the science behind all of this and how it's, it's funny. I consider I'm a woo-woo person, but I don't appear to be on the outside. I'm very much into the meditation and the understandings. And my girlfriend's she's a fiance now, by the way, as of 2 weeks ago.
Congratulations.
So thank you. But I messed up. My fiance is a certified crystal healer, and she loves all these things. And so, yes. So from the standpoint of that, I am that person, but there's a science behind all of it. And I think that's why I've gotten into it. And I'm fascinated by that. And when you went down this path of spirituality and self-love, which I really kind of marry those two a lot of times. But then why was it important for you to dissect the science part of it?
Yeah, great question. To me, the intersection of where science and spirituality meet is where understanding often happens, because so much of the work that I do with clients and in our workshops, it's not just the mental and the emotional. That's important. The psycho-emotional is incredibly important. But oftentimes the first place to start with someone is through this physical plane, through our physicality. Like if I give you an analogy of like, hey, you can do whatever you put your mind to. Okay, great. How, Jennifer Love? And, I can say to you, hey, integrating and self-regulating, like emotional self-regulation, that takes time and practice. And you're like, no, we go in as entrepreneurs and we think I'm supposed to be this like right now, like I got the information, I'm practicing this. The next day, the next week, I should have this down. Like that's the expectation that we often have of ourselves emotionally and psychologically. But if I bring you over into the physical plane and I say, hey, Justin, do you expect that you're going to go out, be taught this sport called soccer, and then the very next day you're supposed to go win a world championship?
Right.
Like you would laugh at me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So, so I love science because it helps us understand on the physical plane in a way that creates a lot of central nervous system, like calming down. Like, oh, my brain can get this in a physical way, right? And so that I can hopefully then rely on this like intangible spiritual world that I don't really understand, and that feels like it's there, but I don't get it. And so the science part to me brings the evidence. It brings the physical evidence for the now. And by the way, it's constantly changing and evolving as well. So it's really kind of funny to me. But I love science because it's part of how, for myself, I go on an adventure. And because, well, being a Sagittarius, I am the adventurer, but I'm also the truth seeker. And I wanna understand truth. And so much can be seen in the spiritual world through science.
Yeah. No, I love that. And without, I think for me personally, without the science part of it, I couldn't wrap my head around a lot of it. So I think for so many people in the world, they almost need to hear it from that standpoint first.
Yeah.
And then it kind of opens their eyes to it. Like for me, I would always joke with Lauren about her crystals. And I'm like, wow, you have so many crystals and this and that. And like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do with that? And she then explained it to me. She's like, it's like second grade science, right? Like everything's made of, neutrons and protons and electrons. They're just vibrating on a certain plane, right?
Exactly. Everything. I mean, we're totally going off on a tangent here.
And that's okay. It happens sometimes.
But it's so true. Everything has a vibration. And so does our relationship with money. And I'm playing with the team right now around even stopping using the word money. I think we're moving much more into this. I mean, we can see with crypto what's happening, right? On some level anyhow. And I much prefer this word currency. Because there's so many different ways to exchange.
Yeah.
And really, what is money? Money is just a tool we use to exchange, but there are many ways to exchange. And so if we get ourselves out of this like one-dimensional linear kind of way of seeing exchange, well, then the world of currency opens us up to so much more
Yeah.
than what money actually limits us to.
Yeah. I mean, there was wealth before there was money, right? And there was different
Yeah.
kinds of currency, and
Yeah.
whether it be trading or time or energy or whatever. I love that you're making that shift, because again, it is so much more than just money, right? I think money, I kind of look at money as just a tool to do more of what you want to do, or give more of what you want to give. And so when you say currency, it kind of, it brings it back home for me to be like, well, there is so much more than just how much money do you have. So I love that you guys are making that shift, right? And I had mentioned earlier, I had the joy of working with your team on your or the first season of your podcast, and it was amazing how you walked people through the whole process of reconnecting with yourself, and what is your relationship with money, and now currency and all these things. And then a little over a year ago at this point, everything changed in your life, and I received, we had a group text going and all these things, and I received something that I never thought that I would receive. And essentially, like, you ended up in the hospital, right? And everything changed in your life, and you were on one path, and now all of a sudden you're in the hospital, and they're like, you may never walk again. Let's go there, if you don't mind, and talk a
Mhm.
little bit about that moment, and what was going through your head. And I want you to share what actually happened, but what was going through your head at that moment, and how it kind of started to shift perspectives for you.
Yeah. Yeah, happy to. So it was May 7th of 2021. So just over a year ago now. Uh, I was riding a horse with a client, and just a few minutes into the ride, Axe, the horse, bucked me off. I went flying off and landed on my butt, and could have immediately feel the electrical shock up my spine.
Mm.
And what had happened was I crushed my spine. And so, brought into the hospital, I knew immediately I was going in for surgery. And it was an emergency surgery, because not only was my L2 crushed 75%, and then the surrounding vertebrae were also kind of damaged. But the cauda equina, which is um, the nerve endings that come out of the spine, they were all messed up.
Wow.
And so cauda equina means horse's tail. So super ironic
Yeah.
in all this. Yeah. So I couldn't walk, and I was ushered in the next morning, 11:30 a.m. for emergency surgery. I was told that I had a 10% chance of walking again without the surgery, and that if I did walk again, it would take me a year to 2 years to be able to do that. So went in for surgery, was in the hospital for 5 days. The incredible amount of pain that I experienced was super intense. I was at a 9 to 10 while I was 5 days in the hospital, and meeting myself in that pain, because here I now have 2 titanium rods and 8 screws in my spine. And so I'm having to, I'm not having to, but I decided to really start to allow my body to receive, and be with this deep pain. Um, Spent 5 days there in the hospital, and was transferred over to the rehab hospital. I'm sitting there. This is day number 6. The first day I'm going to have a shower. I'm in the room. I'm in a wheelchair. The nurse and the care technician are asking me what I want to wear, because they're about to roll me in to get a shower. Now, I can't raise my arms up. I can't put them out to hug anyone in front of me. I can barely stand, and I cannot walk at this point.
Mm.
And and so I'm sitting there in the wheelchair. This is a Wednesday morning, and I thought to myself, I have a decision to make right now. I can either be like, this totally sucks. I wish this didn't happen. Poor me. And everyone in my life would be like, yes, Jennifer, this totally sucks. We're so sorry.
Yeah.
I would have gotten all the sympathy and, gone down that road. Or I was like, I always wondered what it would be like to have handmaidens like in Downton Abbey that dressed me. And I was like, I choose option B. And it was a really pivotal point because it was a point at which I decided and chose that this was happening for me, not to me. This was happening for me. So they rolled me into the shower and they're rubbing me down, and I'm just like, ooh, Now, granted, I'm still in massive pain and on all of the narcotics, right?
Yeah, I
Ketamine,
bet. Yeah.
oxycontin, Neurontin, like just all the stuff. And they're like, what is happening with you? So I let them know. I let them in on what I was having, and they got so tickled by it that they started calling me Lady Jennifer.
I love
and
it.
and they would braid my hair, we'd get out my essential oils, and we were doing the whole thing. But yeah, I was meditating. Yes, I was visualizing my healing. I was taking a white light and I was imagining that I was sewing up my spine. Yes, I was doing my breathing exercises. But what I think was most important in that those 9 days that I was in that rehab hospital was that I decided what this was for me. This was for me. And in that, I then said, okay, medical team, okay, surgeon, I hear you say it's going to take me a year to 2 years to walk, but that's not what I'm going to choose for myself. I'm going to walk out of here. I'm going to walk out of here, and I'm going to be off of narcotics, and I'm going to be at a pain threshold of 4 or less.
Mm.
So that starting that Wednesday, right after the shower, 4.5 hours a day, physical therapy, occupational therapy, all the therapies. And I went all in. I gave it my everything. Well, I claimed it. I claimed it. I claimed my intention. And you know what happened, Justin? You were part of witnessing all of this. I walked out with a rollator day
Yeah.
9. I
Unbelievable.
had weaned myself off of ketamine first. I went cold turkey. It was brutal. It was awful. I felt like I'd been run over by a bus and it kept backing over me. And then I took myself off of the Oxycontin. Dr. Lee came in and was like, Jennifer Love, I have never seen anyone heal like this. Now, I in all of the time I've been a certain, like, not a surgeon, a doctor. I've never seen this happen, and I've never seen anyone take themselves off of narcotics like this. Like, what are you doing? And so I leave, and I get home, and the second day of being home, Justin, I just had this big epic cry. Right? I just let my heart break open with how my back was broken. Right? And I probably cried for about an hour straight. And that was super important. That way, that it was a way of, like, how animals will, after a trauma, they'll literally shake stuff out. It was a form for me as a human to really allow all of that emotion to not be stuck in me, but to be released through me. Right. So then I said, okay, whew. On the other side of that was a lot of laughter and a lot of joy. Right. And so I was like, let me go with my intentions. All right, I'm going to walk 90-minute, nature walk by the end of June. Okay, I did it. Okay, I'm going to dance by the end of August. Okay, I did it. I've got video of all this. Okay, I'm doing this major incline hike with my girlfriends at the end of, October. I did it. The week before Thanksgiving last year, I was flying a trapeze, right?
Unreal.
Here I am just over a year later, and I've been in close relationship with my surgeon, who's also amazed by this rapid recovery. And we're going in July 12th, 2022, and we're going to take out the 8 screws and the 2 rods. And I'm going to be free in my body once again. Why? Because this is happening for me, because this has been the best thing that has ever happened in my life. So much to unpack for those who want to come listen, or be a part of the community at livingwealthy.institute. And it started from this place of deep knowingness. This is happening for me. And I can decide that I'm going to heal my body, and I can live and put all of my energy and effort into manifesting that. And that is exactly what I've done. Do you know what has arrived and shown up in this last year? I've made more money in this last year than I did
Wow.
the 2 previous years, right? And I'm working less than I have. I mean, we've built a foundation. Like, I'm now entering a restorative justice process, and this feels important to me, for me to share with all of us, those who are with us right now. So, you can imagine we live in a litigious society.
Yes.
We do. We just do, especially here in America. And my brother who's an attorney gone judge, and so many powerful people in my life coming to me and saying, Jennifer, you need to sue the ranch. And I'm like, yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I'm just not going to put my energy into a civil lawsuit right now. I'm going to put my energy where my energy wants to go is into my own healing. And sure, this has cost over $650,000 for all of this. I'm going back in. This is going to be an over $1 million.
Wow. Good thing you made more money this year than the last
process, of getting to this place, and so damn worth it. But in that, it's like, no, I want to focus my energy where it actually needs to go, which is on me. And so I did. And then I got to the end of last year and it's like, okay, let me just mentally entertain this. So I did. It was like such a clear no. Talk about dishonoring. Like, what actually wants to happen is a celebration. A celebration of our innate ability to heal ourselves, our innate ability to set an intention from the right place inside of ourselves and manifest it so damn quickly. Manifested walking in 9 days. I wasn't expected to walk for a year to 2 years, right? And we all have that ability. And so I thought, gosh, the owners of that ranch, I would imagine that if I were them and I hadn't reached out to someone who I knew had crushed their spine riding one of my horses on my land, I might have a little bit of guilt or some kind of something going on, a little edginess, not feeling totally great about it all. And I thought, I don't want that for them. I've received so much. My blessings have been so huge. And so what do I want? Again, coming back to what do I want from the right place inside me, not being run from fear, not being run from anger. What do I want? And I had this vision drop in, and I saw myself. I saw my sweetheart. I saw my client who was riding the horse with me. I saw the owners of the ranch, the ranchmen. I saw the surgeon. I saw the rehab folks, right? I saw the nurses, and I saw all of us sitting in a circle. And I want to listen. I want to hear the impact on their lives, because I'm not the only one that's been impacted here.
Yeah.
I want to know, how have you been impacted by this? What's happened for you in your life through this? When I was the last day at the rehab hospital, I had a line outside my door of all of the technicians and the nurses and the doctors and just all the rehab folks, because they were just so amazed. And so they lined up, and so many of them told me how inspired they were, that they wanted to make changes in their own life. I want to hear the impact of that, right? And then I also want to sit with the ranch owners and say, hey, I've since discovered that there are 3 other people that have been bucked off your horses. Can we talk about what's going on with your horses? Like, are we treating them well? Are we, like, when someone's getting on, like the introduction to the person to this horse, like, can we just look at this together? I'm not going to sue you. I just, I'm willing to write, sign my rights away. I just want to have a conversation. Yeah. Can we just look at this human to human? And hey, by the way, your ranchman who picked me up even when I said no and tried to get me to walk could have done more damage. Could we consider getting some appropriate training for your guys? Because how they were treating me and not listening to my no, really not okay.
Yeah.
And hey, medical and rehab team, like, amazing care. Like, oh my goodness, mind-blowing care. And, never once was I asked what I believed was possible for me. Never once was I asked how I felt through this whole process. Thankfully, I have the practice and the tools and have been up to this kind of work for myself for a long time. But you know what? A lot of other people, they don't know. They haven't been in practice. They don't have the tools. Is there a group, an organization we could go talk to so that we could show them what's possible through behavioral health without putting limitations of 1 year to 2 years on their recovery, if at all. Because I know that if this is possible for me, that this is possible for other people too, right? What I came to discover was that this is known as the restorative justice process. And, we live in a world, Justin, where because we're being so controlled by our emotions as it relates to money, so many other people probably out there would think, Jennifer Love, you're insane for not suing. Right? Jennifer Love, what are you doing? But when I go into my heart, my open heart, I keep it open, and I know that this is happening for me from that place. And I know that I'm a powerful manifester, and that by setting clear intentions from the right place inside myself, that I can have whatever I want. From that place, I can also help other people have what they want. And so, is suing them going to make that happen? No.
No.
A restorative justice process. My God, what if we lived in a world, in a relationship of exchange, of currency exchange through a restorative justice process? We would live in a very, very different world. Talk about freedom, talk about liberty. From that place, we can have whatever we want from the right place inside of us.
Wow. So true. So true. And, to talk about how powerful our minds are, right? Going from 1 year to 2 years to literally 13 days, and you walked out. Within 6 months, you were in a trapeze. I think what you're talking about with this restorative justice program is really what it's about, the energy you put into things, and that's what you're going to receive back, right? If you were focused on suing, if you were focused on telling the staff at the hospital, or just absorbing the not negativity, but what they saw in the past of 1 year to 2 years, and et cetera, you would have absorbed that as your own energy, and then that would have been it, right? You would have lived in negativity. And that's it's right. So true. And I love how you're taking that and going, look, I've seen so much good come from this moment, and I want to be able to spread that to the next people. And that's what changes the world. And I love what you're creating for yourself and for so many other people. I think that's absolutely game changing. So thank you so much for stepping into that role. I think that's really important. It's
the person I want to be. It's the world I want to live in, right? What is that quote? Be the change you want to see in the world. Yeah. I feel like I'm really living that.
I love it. So I want to ask you a question that I ask every single person on the show. It's a 2-part question, and I'm excited to hear your answer, because you've had success in so many different areas of your life due to the work that you've put in. And so it's a 2-part question. The first part is, what is your definition of success? And the second part is, what are 3 things you do every single day to ensure that success for yourself?
Cool. Yeah. Success for me equals living my life with my heart wide open and being clear, being really clear with those around me how much I love them.
I love it.
Honestly, that is what success means to me. If the people around me know that I love them, and that I'm an open vessel for receiving and forgiving, like really being a prism, I'm successful. And what are the things that I do every day? Well, I have a morning ritual that lasts 1 hour to 4 hours a day. Wow. Starts early, usually 5 a.m. And I'm meditating. I'm setting my crystalline energy fields. I'm breathing. I'm journaling. I'm reading. I'm clearing energy leaks, and I'm emptying my basket. I'm doing a self-empathy practice, like whatever it is that I really need. It changes a little bit every day based on what I actually need. I'm looking myself straight in the mirror and I'm saying, I love you exactly as you are. And I'm giving myself a body massage, with beautiful oil that I love for my skin. And I'm moving my body. I'm stretching it. I'm penticulating. I'm, getting my heart rate up, even if it's just 12 minutes. the last few weeks I've been running on the beach with Maggie, my dog, right? So I make sure that I empty myself out.
Mm,
I empty myself out and I nourish myself until I'm full. And then I go into the day from a place of being nourished, and I'm able to give so much more with so much more ease and not feel like anything's being taken away.
I love it. I love it. So I wrap up every single interview with the same question, but before we get there, how do people get more information about you? How do they work with you? What's all the good stuff?
Yeah, well, you can go to livingwealthyinstitute.com. And that's where the practice is. That's where the workshops and information about the workshops exists and live. I've been off social for about 9 months, but we're going to be coming back in. So I'm at Instagram at the Jennifer Love, and you can also check me out at jenniferlove.com.
I love it. And like I said, Jennifer, I wrap up every single interview with the same question. And that question is, in your life, what has been your biggest moment of growth?
Hmm. I would have to say the biggest moment of growth has been this last year.
I bet.
And it has, those things you think you're like, I think I could do that. I think I can meet myself in that way. This year, I have gotten to know myself, my ability, and expanding my capacity in ways that, and just meeting myself in ways that I'm blowing my own damn mind. And will just continue to open my heart and give from that place of fullness to other by moving through my limitations and being a clear channel for what wants to come through. Like that, it's this last year. Like Axe, I'm super grateful to Axe the horse, because he's like, hey, get off, you're a fucking manifester, stop acting like a workhorse. And so I'm like, Axe buddy, thanks for that, thanks for that reminder. Yeah,
I love it. I love it. Jennifer, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your time, but more importantly, for the work that you've done specifically in the last year to bring awareness to what the world needs to hear. I really believe it. Like I feel that in my soul that this is just so important. So thank you so much for doing what you do.
thanks for having this conversation and being a witness to my journey.